Good evening and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Now, the new year can seem pretty bleak when you have debts to deal with, especially if you've accumulated more debt over the festive period. But the show tonight will help you see the light at the end of the tunnel if you are struggling, because tonight I'll be joined by two pros in their fields. That's debt buster Priti Shah and also debt collector David Baum. But first, we have the news of Rihanna, and I forgot to say also, we also have Chris Brown with the self-development clinic later on. Hello Rihanna, how are you?
Hi Chrissy,
How's everything today?
Let's not get into that.
Okay, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you have some lovely news to share with us?
Yes, I do.
Did you get yourself into debt over Christmas?
No, I've developed a new thing called self-control.
Oh, good.
I look with my eyes, but I don't touch with my hands,
okay,
because
that's
really
a good strategy, isn't it?
It is, and especially when I have my mum by my side, I know I won't be buying anything. So she's like a weapon of self-control for me.
Oh, that's good.
So I can stay out of trouble.
So you've done well over the festive period then?
I think I have. I think I've done quite well over the whole of the year, actually. I kind of, I bought what was necessary and not what I wanted. You know, that I want this bag now. I want them in all the colours.
It is tempting though, isn't it?
It
when
is.
you see things that you want.
Yeah, because normally I'd buy 5 of the same bag, but it's different colours.
Do you?
Yeah, and my dad is like, why? It's only a pink version of the black one that you already have, which you have the blue one that you don't even use. So this year, I narrowed that down. It was only 2, black and blue.
Oh, well done.
I'm very proud of myself.
Good. But of course, people get into debt for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe they lose their job and, all sorts of things. There's not necessarily people that can't control what they're buying, because things happen to people sometimes. But we're going to be giving our viewers lots of help tonight.
Yes, we will.
So what do you have in the news for us?
Well, I really do like talking about this woman. She amazes me, her sense of style. Now, Lady Gaga.
Oh, okay.
She's amazing, simply because at the Christmas ball that they had, I think it was called the Jingle Bell Ball, she actually dressed up as a Christmas tree. Like, she had pieces of an actual Christmas tree and put it on herself. I'm still trying to figure out how she managed to just bob everything together, but no one else could pull that off.
No, oh, there we go.
No one else. I mean...
Yes, we did see that, didn't we? I mean...
I don't think anyone could pull that off.
What can you say? I mean, if she puts, like, fresh meat on her, that's not really, like, up in the game, is it really? That's a bit disappointed, I think, for Lady Gaga.
The meat was just something else. I mean, I don't have words for that. And
wasn't that prickly with the tree and the needles? Because it's a
real tree, an actual.
That must have been so uncomfortable.
I don't think it was for her. I think she loved it. I think she loves the attention that she gets with her style.
Of course, I wouldn't do that.
It's a world of her own. But yeah, you've got to admire the courage that she has to do that. I don't think a lot of people have that courage.
I don't know if I'd call it courage myself, actually. I'd use a different word, to be honest, but let's move swiftly on.
Yes, please. Now, I know there's always this thing where after Christmas you put on a lot of pounds and then you're like, oh, I need to shift this load and shift that load. But you don't always have to do the shifting, because sometimes putting on weight is not a bad thing, to be quite honest.
You're trying to make yourself feel better, aren't
Yes, I am. And thank you to the lovely Kimberly Walsh from Girls Aloud. She's created a new line for fuller figure women.
About time. Well, I mean, there are lots of lines, I'd have to say, that it's a lot better than what it used to be.
Yeah, a lot better. And now it's almost like,
because it was used to be really hard to find some decent clothes if you were over size 14, wasn't it?
But now, we don't have that problem anymore. Not to say that I'm a size 14 and not to say that I want to be, but there's nothing wrong with being a size 14. It's absolutely fab. It's just, be comfortable in your own skin, but also find celebrities that are promoting that style.
What size is Kimberly then?
She's a full figure. I think she's about 12, 14 herself, because she's always struggled with,
I thought she was
the lower.
She was a 10 or something.
No. She was even saying that her dance teacher always used to tell her to tuck in her bottom, because she had a class of 50 and she had.
I think it's actually refreshing to see fuller size women.
I think it's lovely. It's nice. I mean, even Christina Aguilera is saying she feels better that she's fuller. And before, you wouldn't catch her saying that. Being big is not a bad thing.
As long as you're healthy, that's what I say.
As
long as you've been to the doctor, you've had your checks, everything's fine. Then obviously, but if not, then you really do have to watch your weight, don't you? You have to check.
Don't want to be.
But there are some really fit, like larger women as well.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that, I'm afraid. But I'm sure.
Have you started your exercise regime yet?
I bought.
I already put my newsreaders on the spot. First of all, I'm going to ask you, first of all, if you got yourself into debt over Christmas.
Yeah.
I asked you once if you had a boyfriend, you didn't really answer me. Now...
I know about size. Well, yes, I actually bought a red skipping rope. You know what the boxers have?
A red one?
Yes. I mean, it's so bright. When I get up, it's right there. So I feel the need to use it. Do a bit of pump. Because it's good. I mean, I won't always get time to jog.
No, that's good. Skipping's good.
Like, I would love to swim, but I have this thing about getting wet unnecessarily. So I choose not to swim.
But you do have your showers in the morning, I take it.
Exactly. Yeah. Why do I have to swim? But that's
okay,
just me. I'm weird like that, but it's a lovely weirdness. Right, swiftly moving on. Diet Coke. Everyone has a thing where just because it says diet, they think it's good for you, but it may be the reason why more people are putting on weight, getting fatter.
Thank you.
And
I've
having
had so many nutritionists
wrinkles
on this show telling me the same thing, and I try to tell all my friends that drink Diet Coke not to, because it's really bad for you and actually makes you put on weight, and no one believes me.
The irony, isn't it? It really is. I mean, it says Diet Coke, yet you put on weight.
It does something to your liver, I think.
Something, yeah, and the what do you call it? Like 1 calorie of it is just enough to set you off. I mean, I find that quite scary. I don't really believe in anything that says a diet. I think it's a game. It's like a trick just to make you have more. Because if you have 2 Diet Cokes, it equals an actual Coke. It's my own math, but you know,
There's not 2 calories in milk, of course.
But I wasn't saying that it's 2 calories, but you get what I mean. Please
not really,
me.
but it's okay. But don't drink Diet Coke because it's really bad. Actually, don't drink any Coke because it's terrible for you.
Coke is bad. I mean, I used to think sparkling water was the best thing.
Oh, the thing is, I'm still trying to wean myself off that because I do love sparkling water.
I've gone cold turkey. It was 3 months of pain. I found myself shaking. I had withdrawal symptoms.
Really?
Because I really used to have like a bottle a day until I was told that it's
but
not good for you.
I have to find out if it's actually bad for you.
But you know what I realised? When I used to have to drink sparkling water every day, I would feel bloated, like really bloated. But since I stopped, I don't feel so bloated. So
that's good.
That's a good sign.
I'm still trying with that one, but I do have lots of still water as well, so it's good.
It's really good.
I think we've got time for one more, Rihanna, before we go to a break.
Yes, we do. Baby booming period is over for the lovely Frankie. She recently had a baby, so she wasn't performing with the Saturdays, but now she's back, and the first performance was on Strictly Come Dancing. Oh. Yeah, so she is really going back out there. Because most of the times when celebrities do have babies, they kind of stay behind closed door for a bit. They disappear
for a while, don't they?
Yeah, but she hasn't disappeared for that long, which is good. So she's still keeping herself up there, and she's showing that you can be a mother and still have a career. That's the way I see it. So
obviously it helps if you've got people to help you out, and family, and
I think she has
can afford a babysitter and stuff, obviously, because some people find it really hard.
Really hard, yeah. But when you've got that support, go for it. Okay. So well done, Frankie.
All right, my lovely, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again next time.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so do stay tuned, because after the break, we'll be joined by debt solutions expert Priti Shah to help you who are really struggling with debts at the moment. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and if you've accumulated debts maybe over the festive period, or even more so because of the festive period, so we have someone here to help you tonight, and that's Priti Shah, who's a debt solutions expert. Hello, Priti.
Hi, Chrissy.
So nice to see you here.
Great to be here.
And I'm really glad, because our viewers are going to get some expert advice from you. Now, tell us a bit about your background, because you actually started your career in investment banking, didn't you?
I did, for my sins, I guess. I used to actually be a debt lender, doing multi-million pound deals. We would lend between 5 and 25 million on 2 businesses for management buyouts and leverage finance where there's no security being offered. But for me, I found it unfulfilling. You're doing deals, but it didn't really feel real. You're not directly helping someone. And I got fantastic grounding, fantastic understanding of accounts, business and finance. But I just felt that it wasn't quite real enough. The job I do now, I've been doing it for the last 8 years. It's the longest that I've done a particular job. And I love it because I know it's really directly helping people. I'm passionate about helping people sort out their financial affairs.
Okay, and obviously there are a lot of people that are so afraid to look for help. They just get buried so much in debt. They can't see well. And we have even people killing themselves because they think there is no solution. That's awful.
Yes, I have to say the people that come and approach me, they've heard about me because I've been recommended to them, and I think they're very brave and they're very courageous. Yeah. Because I think talking about your personal finances is almost more intimate than talking about sex. Because you're revealing things that you don't really talk about to other people at all. And quite often, if you're in debt, people feel that they're a failure when really they're not at all. They've done things in their life, they've perhaps taken risks, and something hasn't worked out. The way I approach it is, it's a problem, it needs solving. So let's not think of the past and how it all happened. Let's look at it as a problem and come up with a solution to deal with it and move forward.
So if you can give our viewers then some tips, because I was going to ask, why people get themselves into debt in the first place, because since you've just said you like to look forward and not see, how did they get themselves into it in the first place. Let's be forward thinking then, and let's give some tips to our viewers on what's the first thing they should do to get out of debt. The very first thing, would you say?
I do think your original question is appropriate though, to recognise perhaps why it's happened. And the big thing is to recognise a blip has happened in life.
What's a blip?
So a blip could be anything from losing your job, being made redundant, perhaps being conned or scammed. It does happen, unfortunately, and it's very difficult to then deal with that kind of situation.
Because it's true, because sometimes people that are in debt, they're frowned upon as though it was their fault, they did something wrong, they can't control themselves, and it's not the case always.
So you must have come across the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Right, so he talks about how what you need to do is have your money make money for you. Now, if you're of that school of thought, then you'll be looking at investment opportunities, seeing what you can do with your money. And unfortunately, there are a lot of scammers out there who will take your money, promise you the world, deliver for a short time, and then suddenly you're seeing none of your money come back to you. You've been scammed, and there's nothing much that you can do about it. So divorce is another big area where, unfortunately, what happens is you've doubled your financial outlay, and you've halved your income effectively, and it's
so many factors.
Emotional crisis there as well as financial crisis. So many things can happen to cause debt problems. The other one that's very prevalent is people who are being entrepreneurial. They're setting up in business. They've got to put in finance to help that business start up. They're perhaps using debt financing for that, which is absolutely fine and appropriate. But it can get to a point where the business is being very, very successful, but the cost of the credit is becoming a cash drain on the business, and the business is actually hemorrhaging cash and can't sustain itself. So there are lots and lots of reasons why people get into debt. It's not about being a shopaholic quite often.
Because obviously that is also a different type of help, that's more of addiction, things like that.
Exactly.
So what's the first thing then that someone should do that has accumulated some debt?
Not to be paralysed by fear. You've got to do something about it.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is. And the debt collection letters that people tend to receive are designed to scare them into action. What I would say to someone is, don't be scared into action, but take control and then take action. So really the first thing to do is to have a household budget. Really look at your financial position and look at how much you need month on month to meet your household's needs. Don't do it for just 1 month, do it for the whole year. For example, we pay our car tax in 6-month chunks. So you can't assume that if you do 1 month's budget and you don't allocate any money to put aside for car tax, that you're going to have it in 6 months' time. Similarly, school trips for kids. They're not going to be happening month on month, but you need to be putting money aside for that. So you need to really set yourself a little task of doing an annual budget. You can make it fun. What I say to clients quite often is, inside their kitchen cupboards, put like a sheet of paper with a number at the bottom, which is the maximum they want to spend that month, and then every time they go shopping, they note it down on the sheet of paper inside the kitchen cupboard. Just makes it a bit more fun and a bit more interesting, but you're starting to teach your children how to budget as well.
Which is very important,
The next thing to do really is to look at all of your debt and go and get advice. Okay? What you shouldn't be afraid of is asking people for advice, but don't rely on the advice you get from the man in the pub. He might know something, but quite often he doesn't know your intimate situation. Yeah. So look for companies that will look after your best interests. Now, you can either go to free advice centres like the CAB. The CAB will give you good advice. However, they are time constrained, and quite often they do play middle of the road because they are part financed by the banks. Or you can go to specialist organisations and specialists in that field. What's really, really important is to understand the risk you face depending on the action you're going to take. So if I give you an example, there are two basic camps when you're looking at individuals. You've got homeowners and you've got people who are renting. Now, what everyone gets worried about when it comes to debt is a bailiff knocking on the door. Now, a bailiff will not knock on your door as long as you're communicating with the creditor, unless it's for council tax debt. Council tax debt, you really don't want to have any of that. Pay your council tax, pay your rent or your mortgage, and try and pay your utilities. They're your priority debts.
Okay.
After that, all other creditors can be dealt with really effectively. But what you've got to understand is, if you've got assets, they could be at risk. If you don't have assets, bizarrely, your negotiation position is a lot stronger. So on the one hand, you're thinking, well,
That's interesting.
You're in a weak position because you haven't got anything. But actually, your negotiation position is quite strong because you haven't got anything.
Just hide everything you've got. Just saying. But no, we don't hide. We
No, face up to it. Face up to it. Yeah.
Oh God, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So as long as you're communicating with them, because obviously if you're ignoring the people that you owe money to, they will come after you, won't they?
And it's really important to try and get specialist help if you can. I'd like to share a story if you wouldn't mind. So we have a client who he earns about 100,000 a year. So he does very well, but unfortunately got himself into financial difficulties. He owes in total about 100,000 in debt. I'll just keep it nice round numbers just for me. And he was keeping communication lines open, trying to deal with the matter, had got some of his debt under control. However, with one particular creditor, he kept over-promising the repayment. So because the creditor was demanding £500 a month, he said yes, but couldn't make the payment. That happened a few times, and the creditor then decided to issue bankruptcy proceedings against him. Now that compromises his home, his car, his job potentially, just because he didn't understand how to negotiate with that creditor. Now he got us involved, that's why I know his background and his case. And we've now negotiated a deal where we've stopped the bankruptcy action and actually allowed them to move forward, understanding that we had to present the creditor with an alternative solution which would allow the creditor to have a win and our client to have a win and stop the bankruptcy. And this is why it really, really is important people get the right advice and good advice.
But did he actually believe he could pay that amount back, or he hadn't actually really, he was just maybe saying something to get the person off his back?
Probably much the case of what you've described there, really, because people get frightened and you overpromise.
So it's better to under-promise, over-deliver.
Yes,
as they say,
absolutely right,
world.
spot on.
Gosh,
Yeah.
all these things are so important. So then did he sort everything out?
We're in the
process.
process
Of helping him.
Yeah, but certainly we've stopped the bankruptcy action, which is the key thing in his case. An interesting fact maybe people won't know about. Do you know when someone can make you bankrupt?
No.
You don't, do you? So I'm going to ask a personal question. I'd like you to reply very honestly to us. Do you think on any of your credit cards or an overdraft or a loan that you owe more than £750?
No.
Okay. If you did, and they asked you to pay that money back, whatever the figure, anything above £750, and you can't, they could petition for your bankruptcy.
Really?
Just for £750.
Gosh, that's terrible.
It's quite scary, isn't it?
And on that scary note, we're going to go to a quick break. Priti, you're going to stay with us. You're going to stay with us. It's great advice, by the way. And also, we're going to be joined by debt collector David Baum. Now, before you get out your weapons, we're going to hear the other side of the story and how also you can get help. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show. always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and now we're going to be speaking to debt collector David Baum. Hello, David.
Hello.
So nice of you to come on the show tonight.
My pleasure.
I'm so looking forward to hearing what you have to say as well. So tell us a bit about what you do, first of all.
Okay. Actually, what Priti was saying before actually is very similar to what we do. Mm-hmm. We help clients resolve the issue. Nice. And in business, it's pain, and the pain is unpaid invoices. And what they often have to be told is the uncomfortable truth of how they've got that debt's been arised and how we can help them move it forward. Mm-hmm. You've got different type of debt collectors. And if you're looking for a nasty person that's going to bang on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't ring my company. I'm not interested.
So you're a nice debt collector?
We provide credit control solutions in an ethical, professional and effective manner.
Which is so nice and refreshing.
Yeah, there's no point trying to sort of batter someone if they haven't got the money. Mm-hmm. And the other thing you have to recognise is it's not always, as Priti was saying before, things happen. You don't just go into business. No one goes into business to get into debt. People go into business to make money. You want to set the world alight. Mm-hmm. You want to be flying. You're going to be the next Bill Gates, Alan Sugar. And sometimes things happen where you've made fundamental errors. You haven't credit checked someone. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example of how bad that can be. Have a client who phoned me up, David, it's marvellous, I've just got a £50,000 order to supply promotional merchandise for an event. Can you just do a quick check on them before? Yeah, no problem. Check them out. 4 county court judgments worth £35,000 in the last 6 months. She said, well, I really need the order, what do? Good margins on it.
Don't touch them with a barge pole.
No, you're wrong.
No, really?
Well, there was a way, because what happened was I then phoned the customer and explained, unfortunately, it had failed the credit check. However, we would still like to assist them. At this stage, I wasn't being a debt collector. Yeah. What I was being was the credit controller. And I said, unfortunately, what we're going to have to do is structure a payment plan, and it means we're going to have 50% of your payment with order, 25% prior to delivery, and the balance on delivery. And sure enough, that's what they did.
That's great. What a nice solution.
But on the reverse side of it, 6 months later, that company went bust for £150,000. She hadn't checked the credit check. So people don't do this. I mean, we're talking about trying to get funds. I mean, one of the things you hear about all the time about payday loans.
Yeah, tell us about those. For the viewers that don't know what they are, can you explain what they are first?
Payday loan, Chrissy does it also confirm what this is. This is the ability, if you don't have perfect credit, that you can go to a lender and they will lend you X amount and you pay an exorbitant APR, which is a load of rubbish as far as I'm concerned, because when you take a loan out, whether it's a commercial, a payday loan, for want of a better word, and there are now, a fantastic company that's come out with one, you know how much you're paying back on a weekly or monthly basis. And provided you budget for that, that's very good. The banks cannot lend to the majority of businesses out there. What people don't realise, now we have a very good relationship with Metro Bank. If the viewers who aren't aware who they are, they're one of the greatest, fastest growing banks in the UK. They've been around about 3 years, and they offer old-fashioned banking. You can have a relationship manager you can speak to.
You can see someone face to face.
You make a phone call. You can phone it between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. You speak to the UK, to your branch, your store. Anyway, if you go to them on a loan as a company, they'll do a credit check on the company and then do a credit check on the directors. And if as a director you do not have a spotless credit, you've got defaults, you've got a CCJ, you've got satisfied IVA, they cannot lend to you. So it means either you go to someone like a payday loan company who are licensed and approved by the FSA, or you find a backstreet lender who are not so ethical and not so nice, and they will do things to get their money back which are not worthy.
Okay. Now, what about people that are thinking of starting a business this new year? They're really up for it. It's great. They're really excited about it. And we did a show recently actually about, you need to take risks sometimes. Or you do normally in business, you have to take risks. But then they're thinking, oh gosh, I'm listening to this now and it sounds a bit scary. I don't want to get myself into debt. What can people do to ensure maybe that the best possible chance of it succeeding?
You need 3 things within a quiver, your arrows in business. The first things we've already touched about is credit check people that you're doing business with. Second is have proper terms and conditions that you're dealing with. And I always get this and said, well, I don't want to use terms and conditions, they're my best customers. And one of the things I'm
shaking your head there,
Priti knows this. I mean, we've had this. We do a regular sessions with Metro Bank, and we did this wonderful one at Boreham Wood. And one of my clients is a very big firm of accountants. And Greg dragged his boss along. This is the man that set up the practice. It's been there for about 30 odd years, well established, big turnover, working with local businesses and big businesses. And I said something and he called me to one side. He says, David, I'm ashamed. I said, well, what's the problem? I forgot, and you reminded me, the person that doesn't pay me is not a customer. It's a liability, and I think we have a number of liabilities amongst our customers. So the first thing anyone going into business has got to remember, it doesn't matter how big or small the order is, you've got to get paid. The other thing people...
You can't be soft in business.
No, you can't.
You do sort of feel sorry for people, they're my friend, or they've helped me so much in the past, but then...
Okay, let's give you a practical example. This glass, okay? Someone comes to you and says, right, I want 300,000 glasses. You've got to go and buy those glasses from a supplier. Which means if you don't get paid, it doesn't matter how big the order is, you're personally liable for that. And it's, hello Chrissy, I need some help.
Exactly.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Sorry, and I was actually going to say, and this is where, when you're negotiating regarding debt, and especially when it's business debt, you've got to be about a win-win solution. So even if you're at a point where you've done a deal, you've placed an order, now you can't fulfill the payment, clearly the debt collectors are going to come knocking. Okay, that's a given. What's really, really important is to try and strike a deal. Because if you don't strike a deal, then you get into formal insolvency proceedings potentially.
Correct.
And really, from that, no one wins apart from the insolvency practitioner, because their fees are going to get paid. Yeah. Now, obviously, if that's the route that has to happen for legal reasons, fair enough. But otherwise, what you're really wanting to do is not look at debt collectors as the enemy, but hopefully you meet a debt collector like David who is very solution focused, because then you can get a deal done.
I mean, what a lot of people don't realise is, as a debt collector, actually we're an extension of people's credit control. But actually, we're even further than that. We can actually be another form of salesman. Because one of the reasons a debt doesn't get paid, an invoice doesn't get paid, is you've made a mistake. You've ordered blue pens with, let's go use Metro Bank again as a prime example. They have very stringent criteria for anything that goes out with a Metro Bank logo. They have pin badges with a red M. They have pens, they have this, they have that. And let's just say they've placed an order with you for 500,000 blue pens with a specific red print. Shirley Hill, who is the founder's wife, everything goes through her marketing. And if she's not happy with that print, it isn't going to get paid. Now, that's a debt, but it's uncollectible because you have made a fundamental error. So the first thing, again, going back to what you should do to avoid debt, is make sure that you have everything set up correctly. The other things to do, and I love telling people this, on the March the 13th this year, the European Union did something which for the first time ever I applaud unreservedly. It became a European statute. It's called the Late Payment of Commercial Invoices Act 2013. Up until then, you had to have that printed in the back of on your terms and conditions, and that meant you could claim up to 8.5% interest on late payments. After March 13th this year, you don't have to have that printed, but you've got to have the strength to actually demand that from late payers. And as a true story, we work for a security company who works for the building industry. And
Got about a minute left,
sorry,
by the way, if you can get
very quick one.
Okay.
His client had gone from 28 days to month end following, and I spoke to them at month end following plus 3 weeks. Long story short, he eventually apologised. The invoice was sitting there because I did ask whether they're about to go bust. And then when he paid that, I said, "Oh, by the way, you owe my client another 2,500. He goes, "What's that for?" Late pay. "Oh no, we don't pay that." Yes, you do. European. Are you bigger than the European Union? My client got 2,500. He didn't lose him as a client either.
Good. Brilliant. Okay, David, thank you so much. Priti,
My
thank
pleasure.
you so much. And I think the underlying thing as well is that definitely don't bury your head in the sand.
Correct.
Talk to people, talk to debt collectors as well, because you're not all bad. No. As a lovely example here that we have. And you can't hide things. You have to talk, you have to sort things out, because the worst thing you can do is just try and ignore.
3 o'clock in the morning before we go is the time when people suddenly have a panic. And that's when the next morning Priti gets a call, or I get a call, because it's either that or you don't want to think of the consequences.
Yeah,
and I
definitely.
don't want that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That was great. Okay, so stay tuned, because after the break we'll be speaking to Chris Brown with the Self-Development Clinic.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone, and now we're in the Self-Development Clinic with Chris Brown. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you?
I am really good and really excited today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
I bet you're wondering, why is he really excited today?
I am wondering why
Why is he really
What's going
excited
on?
today? Right,
Why are
okay.
you really excited?
Well, it's funny because I was listening to what he was saying earlier on about debts, and I thought, wow, I can remember all that, and it was like way back then. And I was looking at now. I was talking to somebody earlier on today as well about how you can actually be a lot better than last year, more productive. So I'm actually excited about passing this information on. So what I'm going to say is this. I actually think you've got to get a pen and pad and just write this all down.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay? We're going to...
Make sure you get your paper and your pen and write it, or your iPad, and just start typing away.
Yeah, the iPad.
Do I need to type?
Forget a pen?
I'll
You
do
can
it
take a few
later.
notes if you find it useful.
I can
You can read
this.
them after.
Yeah, I can
Yeah. But we're talking about being more productive for the year. If we think about we finished the year already and we think, well, what have I achieved? What have I done? And then after a while, if you've been doing that repetitiously, you start thinking, well, here we go. Another year, and you even don't bother with the resolutions. So we're going to talk about the actual practical of actually how to actually make that change. Okay. So we're going to start off with a point straight away, linking from what I was just talking about earlier on. Finances. Finances. We love to talk about finances, right? But the truth about it is, we've got to find a better way of dealing with this. And quite a number of ideas came out. Was good advice, solid advice. But let's say if we played a game with ourselves and said, well, my game and one of my goals this year is to say, I'm going to see if I can save more than I actually spend, right? And do that weekly and see how far you actually get with that. So we're talking about little pointers that you can actually mark and say, this is my marker, this is what I'm going to do about it to make my life more productive. So already we're thinking about how we can actually save, and we're going to look into other areas, other organizations, and get with the plan of your finances first straight away. And I know we've got the January sales going on now, and it's all tempting and everything. We heard it all wrong, but this is time to stop and rethink. Yep. Okay, let's talk about
Maybe spend a quarter of what you normally would in January. That's a bit of a step, isn't it, for some people?
Oh yes, oh yes.
If you don't have debts, that is.
If you don't have debts, right? But we can knock those out this year. That should be one of the goals, knock those debts out, right? All right, let's talk about another one here. Now, this one is a little bit strange being we're sitting here right now, but I'm going to say this. To be more productive with your year and think about what you're doing as well, you've got to cut down the amount of things that are non-productive that you do. How many hours do you spend in front of the TV, right? Sitting there watching the TV, where if you cut down those hours, I think the only thing you should be watching is one, the Chrissy B Show, right?
Of course,
you've got to watch the Chrissy B Show. That's
Don't
okay.
cut this show out
right?
of your life.
That's it. But really and truly, you should be able to cut down the amount of hours you spend watching TV, or let's say if you've got children, cut down the amount of hours they spend watching TV. Do you know there's a...
I don't think it's the TV so much nowadays, is it? It's the Facebook and everything, isn't it?
Any kind of screen.
Yeah.
Any kind of screen at the end of the day. If there's a screen there, they're going to watch it and sit there with it. But it's been proven as well. Some research, and I've got it here, it's research showing that children who spend a lot of time sitting in front of TV, actually, as they actually grow, gain more weight than the average normal child. It's a sort of pattern. I mean, it's obvious, but it's a sort of pattern that carries on. So we've got to think about it. Is it productive? Is it being productive? No. You know, we've got to cut down the amount of hours we watch TV. It's not saying don't watch TV. Not saying that at all. But we've got to be more constructive and be more productive. We've got to think of our output instead. And what we put in is what we put out at the end of the day. Right, let's look at another one here. Find a different way to do things. You know, be more creative. You know, mark that down as one that you have to do. Find different ways to do things. Be more creative. That could be in your work environment. It could be the way you handle your work. It could be your everyday life, the way you do things. You keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results. So think of something different. Plus you get bored
as well, because when you try to be creative and do different things, it makes your life more interesting, doesn't it, really?
Oh, definitely, because it's too automatic, isn't it? And life's too short. Live, you know. What about picking up a book that you wouldn't normally read? Read something that somebody else has read. You thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me try that instead. Gain more knowledge. Join a club. Let's think of some of the things. Join a speakers association. They're really good for building confidence. Yeah, come to us. Right. Okay. So here we go. Let's think of another one here. I'm going to say the other one, which is time management. Either time management or mismanagement. I bet I got a feeling what he's going to say when he said time management. Go on, say it, Chrissy. Go on.
He knows what I'm going to say, because one day we did a show and he said there's no such thing as time management because you cannot manage time. You said, I do listen to you when you speak.
I know, and I'm so glad that one has stuck, because it's true. It is so true, and I still stick with it. But this one is about time management, mismanagement, how you actually manage your time. Now, think about it. You've got goals, you've got things you want to do, and sometimes there's just not enough time in a day. Just as you just mentioned, we only got 24 hours in a day, right? But you know what? You can actually get 25 in.
Pardon?
Yes, you can get 25 in, right? Now, how you manage your day is how you actually manage your time instead. That's what we're talking about. So let's say I normally get up about like 8 o'clock, rush to get to work, do what I've got to do. By the end of the day, I'll finish. Then I get home, I'm a bit tired, do this, do that, do the recreation, what I normally do. Didn't get time to do things I was meant to do to add to my goal. So what am I going to do? So I normally get up at 8. I will get up at 7 instead and make sure that I've got that extra hour to do things towards my goal, right? So you can add more time at the end of the day towards your life.
I think even half an hour makes a huge difference, I think.
Oh, of course it does. Of course it does.
Even just to clean the house or do something before you go, a little something every day really does help, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And you know, you just said clean the house. That's an activity as well, and that gets the blood flowing, obviously through the brain as well. Activities, we're talking about even going for a walk. You know, a 15-minute walk is going to make all the difference. You might not think it does, but it will. And that creativity as well, those endorphins that get released in the mind, a good feeling, brilliant. Go for it, you know.
Start your day off.
Yeah, get them more productive. All right, let's go for another one. Here we go. Commitments. Follow through with what you say. Right? Now, some people might start the year thinking, oh, I didn't get to achieve that. Oh, I didn't do this. Oh, somebody asked you, could you do this? Could you do it? Yeah, I'll do it. And you overcommit yourself, right? Think about what you say before you say it. Follow through with what you say. Let's see how productive you'll be, even in this month or this week. If you told somebody you're going to do something, make sure you do it all the way. Challenge yourself. After that, you'll see how more productive you are from there. So we're talking about overall.
It's good to start with small things, isn't it? Sometimes.
Small things first.
Like a serial, what would you call it? A serial overpromiser with things, I suppose. And
that's
like,
a good one.
and then it's like when people sort of start complaining and saying, oh, you like this, it kind of affects your confidence as well. But at least if you start with small things, and again, don't overpromise, but then you can't be the type of person also that never wants to do anything for anyone, because that's just as bad, I think, if not worse. So maybe start with small things that you know you can do, get your confidence with those kind of things, and then build up from there if you need to.
Very much so. I mean, and you hit a very good point, because if somebody's always come to you say, you haven't followed through this, or you didn't do this, your confidence is going to go. And you yourself are going to think, well, I'm not good enough. I don't keep my word, you know. Somebody who keeps their word does actually gain a lot more respect from others around their peers as well. Whether it's your seniors, your peers working, or those working with, you're going to gain more respect. That person follows through. You know, the sort of person, and I know some particular comes from mind, where you say, meet me at 8 o'clock and they're at 1:45, and you think, oh gosh, I better be there, because they're one person who's always there. So they kind of give you a bit of a kick as well at the same time, you know. So we're talking about being productive throughout this year. Now, if you start off with these and you're writing them down, at least, let's say 2 weeks or so, you should have been productive already, and you'd actually notice difference. Yeah, you should be able to see the difference and go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
thank you so much for your advice, Chris.
thank you.
And
Pleasure.
we'll see you again next time. You're
you
going
too.
off on holiday soon,
I
aren't you?
am.
Yeah.
I'm spending a nice
we're gonna-
time for a month away.
Oh, where are you going?
I'm going to Trinidad.
He's going to Trinidad. And I'll be here working away, working my socks off. Everyone, so have a great time, Chris.
Thanks
But we'll
very
see you
much,
again
Chrissy.
anyway before you
Yeah.
go. All right, so we have reached the end of the programme for today. But if you do want any advice, or if you want more information about our guests tonight, you can visit the website chrissybshow.tv. And if you'd like to email me personally about any issue that you might be going through, you need some advice or a friendly ear to listen to you, you can also email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.